Hello, Bible scholars. Happy Friday. Happy December, which is insane that it's already December. Anyways, welcome back to Oops, It's a Bible Channel. Oops, because nothing says for I'm not afraid of the gospel quite like that does. I am your fellow student, Leah Nicole, and today, since we're getting into the Christmas season, I'm going to do a 3-part series. This is going to be the first video of that series, all about Christmas. But we're going to do big picture Christmas. So we're going to start this week talking about different prophecies in the Old Testament that have to do with Jesus' birth and kind of the things that helped pinpoint who this Messiah would be later. In this channel, we believe that the Bible is the holy inspired word of God. We believe that it is useful for correcting, teaching, rebuking, and training in righteousness, and we believe that it is alive and active and sharper than any two-edged sword. Which, if you don't know, those are the 2 core Bible verses that I'm using for this channel. Let's go ahead and get started because we have a lot to get into today. That was a nice sound. Anyways. Alright, so we're going to get started in Genesis chapter 3, verse 15. A lot of people call this the proto-evangelism, or like the first gospel. So this is the first prophecy about Jesus in the entire Bible. So this is the same time when God curses the serpent for tricking Eve. So this is at the very end of it. So it's interesting to me that right after a curse comes hope, which I think is probably going to be a theme that we see throughout the Bible, but I have to do a little bit more study on that one. And eventually, hopefully, I can do a video on it because that would be pretty cool. Anyways, so verse 15 says, I will put enmity between you, talking to the snake, and the woman, and between your offspring and her offspring. He shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel. The he is the offspring of the woman, which, if you know the birth story of Jesus Christ, that's a very interesting thing because he was born of a virgin, so there wasn't an earthly father there, so it was really the offspring of a woman, not a man really involved. So that's interesting. The next one we're going to look at is Numbers 24, verse 17. This one is a little bit weird because the prophet who's speaking in this is not from Israel. I forget what nationality he is, but I'll probably put it right here once I do some research and figure it out. Anyways, so it says in verse 17, I see him, but not now. I behold him, but not near. Meaning that this is going to happen way in the future, not anywhere close to what's going on right now. A star shall come out of Jacob, and a scepter shall rise out of Israel. It shall crush the forehead of Moab, and break down all the sons of Sheth. Now, I don't exactly know 100% what that means, but it is talking about a man in the future who's going to kind of bring salvation to Israel, and this person is going to come through Israel. All right, next we're going to get into Psalm. Okay. Chapter 2, verse 7. I will tell of the decree, meaning I will say, I will tell you what God said to me, basically. The Lord said to me, okay, well, there you go. You are my son. Today I have begotten you. It's simple enough. It's going to be God's son. Now, some of these prophecies are also other things, or sometimes are also referring to something else. Throughout the Bible, a lot of times, things in the Bible refer to or talk about multiple things. Usually when something's in the Bible, it's not just one thing. There's usually a couple of layers to it, usually, just because of the beauty of God and the way he works, which is awesome. So that's pretty cool. I think this is one of the ones that is mentioned as being fulfilled in Matthew. Throughout the birth story of Jesus, as laid out in Matthew, there's a couple of times when it says that a certain prophecy has been fulfilled through this certain thing that happens. We'll get into that a little more next video. All right, so next we're going to go to Isaiah. And as you can see, this one has the most out of the ones that I have talked about already because, actually, I don't know why, but I just think it's pretty cool. The Isaiah has not just one, not just like two, but this one has three different prophecies about Jesus' birth specifically. There's even more about all the different things he would do. Isaiah 53 being one that's quoted very often, but that one is more about his suffering than his birth, so we're going to talk about prophecies that have to do with his birth specifically. So we're going to go, we're just going to go through. So we're going to start with Isaiah chapter 7, verse 14. All right, and it says, "Therefore the Lord himself will give you a sign. Behold, the virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and shall call his name Emmanuel." Okay, so this is specifying that Jesus would be born from a virgin, which is really cool. I guess they didn't know it was Jesus, but the Messiah would be born from a virgin, and it would be a boy. And they would call him Emmanuel, which means God with us. So it's saying that this person is going to be the embodiment of God with humans in general. I think specifically the Israelites is what it's referring to here, but it's still the idea that this person is going to make it to where God and people can be reunited like they were supposed to be from the very beginning. All right. The next Isaiah passage is going to be Isaiah chapter 9, verse 6. It says, which you've probably heard this one before. It's a very common one to quote around Christmas time. "For to us a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder. And his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace." So this is the idea that the Messiah is a gift from God. And it talks about some of the roles that he'll have and some of the things he'll be identified as. A wonderful counselor. So he's going to be someone who teaches people amazing things and helps people work through problems they have in like an amazing way. A mighty God, he's going to be very powerful and do all kinds of amazing things that only God could do. Everlasting Father, he's going to kind of take care of us in like a fatherly way, and he's going to be forever. There's not going to be an end. And then the Prince of Peace, he's going to bring peace to all kinds of people, these are all things that Jesus has done. Next, and the last Isaiah passage is going to be Isaiah 11, verses 1 and 2. Okay, "There shall come forth a shoot from the stump of Jesse, and a branch from his roots shall bear fruit." Alright, so, a shoot from the stump of Jesse. Jesse was David's father, so this is saying that this Messiah is going to come from the line of Jesse. So either David himself or one of his brothers. "And a branch from his roots shall bear fruit." Now this is interesting because Jesus identifies himself in John 5 as the branch. So that's interesting. Just a little bit of a connection there. Alright, next. Jeremiah chapter 23, verses 5 and 6. Right. "Behold, the days are coming, declares the Lord, when I will raise up for David a righteous branch," there it is again, "and he shall reign as king and deal wisely, and shall execute justice and righteousness in the land. In his days Judah will be saved, and Israel will dwell securely. And this is the name by which he will be called. The Lord is our righteousness." Okay, so this is specifying that that the Messiah will come from the line of David specifically. And in Matthew, through the genealogy, you can see that Jesus does come from the line of David. It's talking about executing justice and righteousness in the land. The woes to the Pharisees, just a little bit. And this is the name by which he will be called. The Lord is our righteousness. Now that is interesting because Jesus does, through his sacrifice, helped us to be righteous through him. So he is our righteousness. So that's cool. Alright, next passage is in Hosea chapter 11, verse 1. Here we go. When Israel was a child, I loved him, and out of Egypt I called my son. So this is specifically talking about Israel, obviously, because it's talking about that. Specifically talking about the Exodus out of Egypt. But in Matthew, whenever Jesus comes back from Egypt after having to escape from Herod, it mentions this verse as a prophecy, so I see it as one as well. So, and that's just evidence that just because something is referring to one thing doesn't mean it can't also be referring to something else. The last verse we're going to talk about is Micah chapter 5, verse 2. Okay, but you, O Bethlehem Ephrathah, who are too little to be among the clans of Judah, from you shall come forth for me one who is to be ruler in Israel, whose coming forth is from of old, from ancient days. Okay, so this is specifying where the Messiah would be born, in Bethlehem, which is where Jesus was born. And it's talking about whose coming forth is from of old, from ancient days. It's talking about how he's been prophesied before, long before he was born, and kind of, in my opinion, implying that he has existed from before as well, though that's not as strong of a point as the first one. If you know about more, go ahead and comment those, because I would love to hear it and read them. But, so those are the prophecies from the Old Testament about Jesus' birth specifically. Now, there's all kinds throughout all the Old Testament about other things that he would do. So, it's not just... His birth wasn't the only thing prophesied in the Old Testament. All of the Old Testament screams Jesus, really. It talks about our need for him. It talks about it kind of gives pictures of different roles he would have. I think of Abraham and Isaac when I talk about that, the almost sacrifice on the mountain, which is like almost the perfect picture of Jesus' sacrifice on the cross. So as you go through this Christmas season, make sure that you're focusing on Jesus. You're focusing on, because that's really what this whole season is about Jesus and his coming to earth. This is when we celebrate it. And then when at the end he sacrificed himself on the cross so that we could be forgiven for all of the wrong things we've done. And if you don't really know exactly what I'm talking about, I have a video that can help you figure that out right here. This is what I have on the prophecies that are in the Old Testament. Stay tuned for the next two parts of this big picture Christmas series. If there's something else you would like me to talk about, or question you have about a certain passage, go ahead and comment that so that I can see it and get to it. Hit the subscribe button and then the notification bell so that you never miss anything, even if I decide to post outside of my normal Friday. And if you know someone who would love to hear about this kind of thing, share this video with them so that they can see it too. God bless you all. Have a great week. I will see you next Friday. Read your Bibles.